Sam Raimi returns to Marvel superhero movies for the first time in years. Coming up on Serial at Midnight, we're talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, right after this. Guys, hello and welcome to Serial at Midnight. We're talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This movie is crazy in the best of ways. I'm going to do this in two parts. We're going to start with non-spoiler discussion. I'll give you my thoughts on the movie, and then at the end we will talk spoilers for all you guys that saw the movie. Sam Raimi is back, baby. I can't... Hail to the king, right? What do you say? For all us Evil Dead fans, for all us Darkman fans that have been here for decades, this is the Sam Raimi that we love. This is Sam Raimi playing in a much darker territory, too, than the Spider-Man movies. This is the, horror Sam Raimi. This movie is, by all evidence, it's really leaning into some really dark elements of Doctor Strange, who is a dark character. We should say that. This is a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, of course. This is an MCU story, but Doctor Strange is one of the darker characters in Marvel. And, he's the master of the mystic arts. He's also a master of the dark arts. We're talking about sorcery here, and that is always, when this character came along, it was the height of, we're talking about the 60s, the height of the psychedelic movements. Like, Doctor Strange is a black light poster come to life. And this movie gets that. The last movie got that too. All the Inception stuff. There's less Inception stuff in this movie and more just like, whoa. So let's talk about what this movie does. It feels, I'll say this. Here's a criticism that so many people may not agree with. I don't know. For me, it feels a little uneven. The first half of the movie is very different from the second half of the movie. The first half of the movie, I was like, this is okay. This is like generic Marvel superhero movie. It could have been on Disney Plus, It's like, okay, again, we got to get the thing that does the thing so we can stop the thing. And I don't mean the thing from the Fantastic Four. It's clobbering time. I don't mean that guy. I mean, it's just MacGuffin, the movie. And this movie introduces to the Marvel Cinematic Universe a character called America Chavez. America Chavez. Let me hit that CH hard. America Chavez. And that is there's going to be a lot of discussion about this character. A lot of it I'm not interested in talking about. What I'm interested in talking about is from a screenplay perspective. This is kind of a blank slate character. In the Marvel universe proper, the comics universe, which I think we all know is the proving ground, it's the inspiration ground for these movies. They're drawing so much. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness draws so much from comics history. Of course, Doctor Strange has been around since the 1960s, as have most of these characters. America Chavez has been around for about a decade. In fact, on the car ride home, Bree, my wife, was like, what is her deal? What are her powers? Where does she come from? And I was like, it's kind of like, I was trying to think, like, I've read most of her stuff, right? So America Chavez, you can read her, Young Avengers, which is a short series, her West Coast Avengers run, short series, Ultimates 2, short series. I think she had her own series that ran for 12 issues, I think. She's probably got less than 50 comic book appearances, which in the scheme of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not a lot. So for this movie, she feels a lot like a blank slate. And I know that Marvel is setting up later, because they have finite contracts with these actors, right? Like, look, Robert Downey Jr. aged out, right? He contracted out. You don't have these actors forever. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe is thinking about how to build for tomorrow, today. America Chavez feels like a studio note in a Sam Raimi movie. They're like, well, we need you to add... We heard all the stories from Joss Whedon when he was doing Avengers 2, how they're like, well, we need you to add this scene with Thor. And he's like, what does it have to do with my movie? There's a lot of stuff that feels like that in this movie. America Chavez is MacGuffin. She's just a MacGuffin in this movie. A MacGuffin is a screenwriting term for a plot device that just moves things forward. She exists in this movie so we gotta go get that thing. Which is fine. That's not a knock on anything. I was thinking a lot about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom watching this movie. Partly because Benedict Cumberbatch, that Doctor Strange character, keeps calling America Chavez kid. And it's just like, to me, it's just like, fortune and glory, kid. Fortune and glory. And then, of course... there's the short round. Is she the short round of this movie? I don't know, but think about what happens in Temple of Doom. Short Round kind of is the thing that keeps everything going. Got to go get Short Round. Got to save Short. Oh, here we are. It's MacGuffin. It's just MacGuffin. And that's okay, but there's not a lot of... The first half of this movie does not have a lot of character development. It does not have a lot of expansion for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I was like, well, this is fine. I probably could have just waited and watched this on streaming. And then the second part of the movie started. And I was like, well, never mind. On, like, every 5 minutes, I was just like, what? What? They did what? So it greatly expands the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It does things that I never thought that I would see in a Marvel movie, which we'll talk about in the spoiler half of this. But it had so much... It really tapped into what Doctor Strange is in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He is... What we see in this movie is the potential of what a Doctor Strange movie can do. That is what comes from the comics. If you guys are only watching these movies and you're not reading the comics, please, you guys got to go read the comics. Because some of this stuff... Like, if you love what is being done with these movies, well, there's like 60 years of that in comic book form. And in a lot of cases, it's as good, if not better, than these movies. So the potential for Doctor Strange, if you like this, oh, that's what Doctor Strange is. Like, the psychedelic stuff, all the, like, reality bending, dimension bending, facing against the evil foes of the multiverse. So cool. So this movie establishes the multiverse on a much larger scale. It establishes the potential for what we can expect from a Doctor Strange movie, the ethereal aspect, the supernatural aspect. We haven't really seen a lot of that in the MCU. We've seen some Blade, Ghost Rider, but these are not folded into the MCU yet. And this one really establishes, it really pushes the darker envelope forward. I love seeing Wanda in this movie, more on the second half of that. In fact, let's just move into the second half. Guys, if you want to know what I think about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I liked it quite a bit. I think the second half is way stronger than the first half, which is fairly generic. Not sold on America Chavez yet, but I understand that she is probably there to expand these movies in the next, over the next 10 years. She's there for the future. She's also there for the younger viewers who are coming into this stuff. Not everybody was there in 2008. They haven't been there from the beginning, so she's a good gateway for newer viewers to enter into this world. But for me, I'm so glad that Sam Raimi is back in Marvel, and there's so much to celebrate with this movie. So check it out. It's not perfect, of course. No movie is. It feels kind of studio notey. It feels Disney at a lot of times. So the pros and cons that come with both of those things. But it's so worth a watch, and it's a big step forward for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's talk about spoilers. Holy cow, you guys, Reed Richards, all the alternate dimension stuff, Professor Xavier, Patrick Stewart, Professor X. Did you notice that when he comes out, he's in his animated series yellow levitating wheelchair thingy, and they played the notes from the animated series opening? I was like, to Brie, I was like, that's the animated series music. So excited. The love and the deep dive on some of this stuff was like, just really blew my mind open. It was so great to see Peggy Carter again. It was so great to finally have a realization of the Fantastic Four within the MCU. Presumably, if we're going to continue down that path, we get Krasinski. We get Jim. We're getting that actor carrying the forward with Reed Richards. I would love to see the rest of the Fantastic Four, but I like the way that they didn't push it. They're just like, hey, this is coming. Black Bolt, you guys. Black Bolt from the Inhumans getting to do his thing. They introduced this character in this movie that, and I know we've already done Inhuman stuff before was Netflix, right? But to introduce Black Bolt and then have him immediately show his powers within like 5 minutes after we've met him, and to show, oh, dude, the Illuminati straight out of the comics. So much of this stuff straight out of the comics. If you watch this movie and you're like, that Illuminati concept is really interesting, dig into the comics. What the Illuminati has done over the years, what they did to the Hulk, which led to Planet Hulk. You guys got to check the comic books out. This stuff is so good. But then, like, even just Raimi playing with Doctor Strange and like the darkness, like the last act of this movie is zombie Doctor Strange with, you guys, when he's like cloaking himself in the souls of the dead as his cloak. That's amazing. That is so cool. That is what Doctor Strange is capable of. And I'm so glad to see a movie does this movie even feel like a sequel to the first Doctor Strange movie? I don't know that it does. It's hard to think of. These movies more and more just feel like the latest chapter in a serial. And that's good and that's also bad. But it's bad because that makes them feel more disposable when you take away the cinematic trappings of what a movie should be, which is, it should be able to stand on its own. I don't know that this movie can stand on its own because you need to know who Wanda Maximoff is. You need to probably know what happened in the WandaVision. See, they references like the Westport event, whatever, the incident. You kind of need to know what happened to know why she's so upset that she doesn't have access to her kids. There are aspects of this that I don't love. I don't love how dependent it is on you seeing everything else. But at the same time, as a comic book fan, I'm able to be like, I can say, but look what they're able to achieve now since they don't have to explain a lot of stuff and they can just launch right into it. So if you are up to date on your MCU, whoo doggy, there's some good stuff in here. And so I don't know how much more I've got to say. It's just the elements here. Black Bolt, Professor X, the uniting, been waiting to see how they were going to do some of this stuff. We knew that when they bought Fox that opened the door for, first of all, I was super worried when the Fox thing happened because, rightfully so, because now a lot of Fox movies are out of print and have been for a couple of years now. Legitimate cause for concern. But on the upside of that, we do get Patrick X. We get Professor Xavier in these movies, or in this movie, and that would not have been possible without the purchase probably, and two, without a multiverse idea. So I'm excited about the multiverse because it really opens up where these movies can go. They can now recast if they want to. They can recast Tony Stark. They can recast Captain America. Steve Rogers. They now have the option to be like, well, this is just alternate universe stuff. I love that we're dealing with the 616. They have established the 616 as canon for MCU. That's great. Again, so much love to the comics. And here's another, Bruce Campbell. Oh my goodness, you guys, Bruce Campbell. The post-credit scene. Did you guys notice twice in this movie someone looks directly down the barrel of the camera? Bruce Campbell does it and Wanda does it in one of her scenes. They acknowledge us watching them. Which is new, I think, for the MCU. But I love it, and I'm glad that Raimi was the guy that did that. For a Scarlet Witch fan like myself, it's great to see the power of Scarlet Witch, to see what this is the character that disassembled the Avengers. This is the character from House of M that said no more mutants. Boom. If you don't know any of those stories, go check out. Don't have to wait for a movie. Go check out this is my message. I'm like, go read the comics too, because these work together. They're not either or. They can be mutually beneficial. There's so much stuff here. To see the Scarlet Witch unfettered, untethered, able to do whatever she wants to do. This is the Scarlet Witch I know from the comics. So much of this stuff, I'm like, oh, this is the character that I know from the comics brought to life on screen. So much good stuff there. And again, real edge, real darkness, Sam Raimi, but playful, right? Not darkness, and not like the Batman darkness where it's just sad and kind of empty and kind of angry. This is fun darkness. This is darkness that invites us to come along and have a fun time with it. Bruce Campbell talks about when he first met Sam Raimi, he was playing with toys on the floor of the high school, I think it was. He's like, he was playing with action figures, and this is that Sam Raimi. He's playing with his action figures, but we all get to watch. So glad to have him back. Maybe this will lead to more creator-driven opportunities for Sam Raimi outside of a big franchise, because I love when Raimi gets to do what Raimi wants to do. Hey, Raimi, if you're watching this, Sam Raimi, I love your work. I love Evil Dead, right? I love Army of Darkness. I love the Spider-Man. I like the Spider-Man movies. But here's the thing. I love when you get to go chase your own passion and your own creations like Darkman, and I hope you get to do more of that in the future. As much as I'm happy to see you back in the Marvel umbrella, what have you got on this level that's just totally yours? Let us know. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. I think it's a really fun movie. Again, a little uneven for me. America Chavez feels like an unknown, and I think that's because she is an unknown. She is still a character being developed that doesn't have the weight or the history or the impact, the importance in the cinematic universe the same way, or even the comics universe, that, Stephen Strange, Wanda, all the other characters in this movie are heavy hitters. America Chavez is not. But I think that she's there as a bridge for the audience and also to bring in all the things that Disney likes to bring to their movies. It's not an accident. It's all on purpose. So, guys, that's my thoughts on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I liked most of it. There were things I wasn't crazy about, but I'm excited about what it does for these movies. So, let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and we can continue our conversation. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and talking about this Marvel movie. What, you guys excited about Thor? Again, we'll talk about that too. Let me know. Guys, thanks. Take care. Until next time, I will catch you later.